Picture this. You're at the grocery store, standing in the checkout line. Your phone buzzes. Rent's due tomorrow. The card in your hand has maybe $200. You're holding eggs, bread, maybe some chicken. You do the mental math, again and again. Behind you, someone's waiting. You can feel it. Your mind goes blank. You can't remember what else you needed. You can't even remember if you already bought milk this week. This isn't about being forgetful. This is your brain running on empty. When we talk about a scarcity mindset, we're not talking about being cheap or pessimistic. We're talking about something much more specific. Scarcity mindset is what happens when your brain is constantly calculating whether you have enough money, enough time, enough anything. And when the answer keeps coming back as no or barely, your mind doesn't just worry about it, it locks onto it. Think of it like this. You know how when you're expecting an important text, you keep checking your phone? Even when you're doing other things, part of your attention is always just waiting for that buzz. Scarcity does the same thing, except it never stops buzzing. The notification never goes away. Your brain becomes like a phone with 20 apps open at once, and half of them are frozen. Everything slows down. Everything gets harder. That's not a metaphor. That's actually what happens to your cognitive performance. Researchers at Princeton and Harvard discovered something extraordinary. They found that when people are worried about money, their mental performance drops, not slightly, dramatically. In one study, they asked people at a New Jersey shopping mall to imagine a financial problem. Some were asked to think about a minor car repair, $150. Others were asked about a major one, $1,500. Then they gave them standard IQ and cognitive tests. The wealthier participants performed the same either way. But people with lower incomes, when thinking about the expensive repair, their scores dropped significantly. The researchers described it as losing about 13 IQ points. That's roughly the same cognitive impact as pulling an all-nighter. But here's the thing. These weren't less intelligent people. When the financial scenario was easy, when the pressure was off, they performed just as well as everyone else. The difference wasn't intelligence, it was bandwidths. Psychologists use that word specifically, bandwidth, like your internet connection. When too many things are streaming at once, everything buffers. Your brain works the same way. Financial stress doesn't just sit quietly in the background. It eats up processing power. The part of your brain that's supposed to solve problems, plan ahead, weigh options, it's too busy doing financial math in the background. You're trying to run complicated tasks, but most of your RAM is already spoken for. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Someone forgets to pay a bill. Not because they're irresponsible, but because their brain was juggling rent, groceries, and the electric bill, and there was just no space left to remember the water bill. Now there's a late fee, which makes next month even tighter. Someone takes out a payday loan. The interest is brutal. They know it's brutal, but right now the car won't start, and without a car, there's no job. So the immediate problem wins, because the immediate problem is screaming. Scarcity doesn't make you think short-term because you're impulsive. It makes you think short-term because long-term thinking requires bandwidth you don't have. Or think about decision fatigue. Imagine someone at the end of a long day trying to figure out whether to cook something cheap but time-consuming or buy something quick but more expensive. Both options feel bad, so they freeze, order delivery, overspend, feel guilty. Repeat. That's not laziness. That's a brain under load. The bandwidth study even tested this with Princeton students. They put them in a game where some had plenty of time to answer questions and others had very little. The time-poor students were given the option to borrow time, but every second borrowed cost them 2 seconds from their total. These are Princeton students. Nobody's calling them unsophisticated. And yet those under time pressure borrowed constantly. They fell into the same traps as people under financial pressure. Scarcity makes smart people make decisions that look, from the outside, not so smart. Here's the most important thing to understand. If you've ever felt financially stressed and found yourself forgetting things, missing details, making decisions you regret, that doesn't mean you're not smart. It means your brain is under pressure. Scarcity doesn't reveal low intelligence, it creates temporary cognitive strain. Those are two different things. A researcher named Eldar Shafir, one of the lead scientists on this work, put it perfectly. He said, "It's not about being a poor person, it's about living in poverty." You could be brilliant, you could be capable, you could be resourceful, but if the mental noise never stops, you're trying to think through static. That's not failure, that's overload. So what do we do with this? First, if you've experienced this, give yourself some grace. You weren't making mistakes because something's wrong with you. You were making mistakes because your brain was running on fumes. Second, if you're building systems or helping others, design with bandwidth in mind. Make things simpler, make them more forgiving, make room for mistakes, because the people who need the most help often have the least mental space to navigate complicated processes. And third, recognize scarcity for what it is, not a moral failing, not a character flaw, just a load. And like any load, it can be eased, not always quickly, not always easily, but it can be eased. Understanding that is the first step. Thanks for watching Ken Talks Money. If this helped you see things differently, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, this video is for educational purposes only. It's not financial advice.